Monday Night Football, Baltimore Ravens, Los Angeles Chargers. Welcome to the full statistical breakdown. My name is Max. If you've never been here before, welcome. I do these every single week for the Thursday night games, at least one game on Sunday, and the Monday night games to give you the best information possible based on coverage data, run scheme metrics, as well as overall logistical information for your fantasy teams, as well as your higher or lower projections. Our last video, the Giants-Buccaneers breakdown, this data helped us go 3 for 3. Theo Johnson yards, Malik Neighbors catches, and Bucky Irving rush yards on those higher or lower projections. So make sure if you're new, you subscribe, you like this video if you enjoy this type of content, but definitely subscribe, join the family. We are on the road to 7K, and we're almost there. If we get to 7K by the end of this video, I will owe you guys everything. But without further ado, let's get into this data. I will show you where you can make your picks and projections at the very end. So stick with me. We're going to start with our coverage matrix, though. If you've never seen a coverage matrix before, this is essentially a breakdown of how each team plays coverage against others. You look at the defensive numbers first. You move to the offensive numbers. You see how the quarterbacks do against each type of coverage. But we're going to start by looking at the Baltimore Ravens and Los Angeles Chargers defenses. So when you look at the overall man percentages, you can see here, nothing really sticks out in terms of those two teams in the top 10 of what they like to do. And you can go to the zone percentages, and you can find the Los Angeles Chargers at number 2. Now, truthfully, the Baltimore Ravens defensively are very balanced in what they do, right? They run a lot of zone. They run a lot of man. They're pretty balanced in what they do and what they present defensively, especially for a primetime game like this. It's going to be very, very difficult to contain Justin Herbert, excuse me. The Los Angeles Chargers on the other side are extremely heavy zone, but not only extremely heavy zone, extremely heavy too high shell. So Minnesota Vikings do a lot of this. Chiefs do a lot of this. The Los Angeles Chargers show a lot of too high. So they play a good amount of cover 2, but most importantly, they play a ton of cover 4 and cover 6. So almost 24% of their defensive snaps are cover 4. So quarters, it helps with the run fits too. A lot of times when you have too high safeties, you may not be as sound against the run, but the Los Angeles Chargers cover 4 helps your safeties play a little bit closer to the box, helps the run fits a little bit. Same with cover 6, a lot more fluidity in what you can do on one side of the field compared to the other, helps with the run fits as well. But that quarter stuff, that quarter, half stuff has been really good to the Chargers in terms of the run game, because we'll look at the run scheme data in a minute. They're pretty good against the run. They're pretty solid against the run. But Derrick Henry eats those too high shells for breakfast, lunch, dinner, pregame, postgame meal, anything he wants whenever he's hungry. So we'll dive into that in a little bit. But you can see the Chargers very, very zone heavy, and we'll take a look at how the Baltimore Ravens do against zone, who gets targeted the most against zone. We'll walk through that as well. But we got to look at this Ravens defense first, too. You don't really see much that sticks out. Again, you find Baltimore down here a little bit. We'll search them up. I don't see them. You find Baltimore here, like 12th highest middle field open or too high shell. You find them here, 20th most zone, so 66.8. And then man, 15th most man. Now, you guys know, I think everybody and their mother knows, the Baltimore Ravens have really struggled against the pass this year. And that's the bottom line. Most yards given up overall last 5 overall, as well as just most yards overall last 5 to wide receivers specifically. They're getting targeted, as you can see, the advanced coverage data here. We pulled up the wrong thing. The advanced coverage data here, they're getting targeted pretty heavily outside. So the 8th highest out wide rate in the NFL. And you look at the other target rates, there's really not much to write home about. Like the slot target rate for the Baltimore Ravens, 28.1, is second to last in the NFL. The inline target rate, they're usually pretty good against tight ends, getting targeted at the 13th lowest rate in the NFL. The back target rate is interesting, especially recently. They actually given up the most receiving yards to opposing running backs the last 5 games. So they're getting targeted out of the backfield at the 9th highest rate in the NFL. So with that information, we go take a look at these Chargers route runners. We want to look for out wide route runners, and I'm sure you guys can guess who that is, as well as who runs the most routes from the backfield on the Los Angeles Chargers. Now, the data is going to vary because Gus Edwards is coming back. Hassan Haskins is having a little bit more of a role, but you can look there outside of the backfield. It's pretty clear J.K. Dobbins is their third down guy. Let's put this up over here. Every single time there's a drop back, J.K. Dobbins is running a route on 65.3% of those plays. Generally speaking, he's running routes out of the backfield compared to everywhere else at an 88%. So he almost exclusively runs routes out of the backfield, and we can pull up his projections very, very quickly. And I will show you guys where to get those very, very shortly. But you can look at that, and he is projected 14.5 receiving yards, which to me is just a little bit low, especially for how much he's being targeted. And you can go to the game logs against Baltimore Ravens. I go back to that Chase Brown game. I know Chase Brown had a great game through the air against them recently, but you look like Jalen Warren, 27 receiving yards, Najee Harris, 30 receiving yards. Chase Brown, 52 yards, but also 9 catches. Javonte Williams, 42 receiving yards. Nothing here out of the Browns. Doesn't really surprise me, but Rachaad White, 71. Bucky Irving, 54 in the same game. Eckler, 47. Zach Moss, 28. Nothing here out of the Buffalo Bills, which is very interesting because they were trailing. Hunter Lepke, 41. Rico Dowdle, 24. Zamir White almost had that 15 number. And then week 1, Isaiah Pacheco at 33. So I look at that with a guy like J.K. Dobbins as a number that's just a little bit too low. The only issue is he really hasn't hit that much. So you look at the last 5 games, he's 2 for 5 there. And then you look at overall, he is 3 for 9. So that scares me a little bit. But I do think that because the Baltimore Ravens are so good against the run and the Chargers are going to have to pass so much, he will benefit from that greatly. And we'll go look at the out wide routes here too, because it's not just the inline stuff or the backfield stuff for the Los Angeles Chargers. We want to find the wide routes because the Ravens are being targeted at that 8th highest rate on the outside. Ladd McConkey is questionable for this game. We don't really know if he's going to play or not. My guess is yes. At the time of recording, we don't have the information to say yes or no specifically, but my guess is he does. Regardless, he is not the out wide guy. That's Quentin Johnston, and it's Josh Palmer. Now, you look at the team route rate, 38.2% of dropbacks have an out wide route from Quentin Johnston. 29.5% of dropbacks have an out wide route from Josh Palmer. Now, there is still a smaller number with Ladd McConkey. Like he's still running 70 routes from the outside, about a quarter of his routes overall. So you do have to note that. But when you look at the receiving yards projections for the Los Angeles Chargers, we can pull that up. I am honestly pretty interested to see because these guys are going to have to pass the ball a ton. Again, we'll go through the run data and why I think the Chargers will have to pass the ball so much. But like Quentin Johnston, he's projected 3.5 catches, which I think is a little bit low, and then 50 yards, which is also a little bit low. And then Josh Palmer, 36.5. And we can go, first of all, let me show you before I forget. If you guys want these projections, you can get them on Sleeper, on Underdog, and on Better. There'll be a link below to join. Use code LEADS, LEADS. You'll get a 100% deposit match on Sleeper, as well as a free pick. A deposit bonus up to $1,000 on Underdog, as well as a free pick. And a deposit match up to $200 on Better, as well as a free pick. You can get all that stuff on all of them if you're not on any of them already. Click that link below. Join. Highly suggest. But if you're on a couple of them, you're not on all of them, free cash. Go join. Don't miss out on the opportunity. Regardless, those projections are a little bit too low. You go look at the game logs against. You don't need me to tell you again that the the Ravens are not good against receivers. Pickens, the main out wide guy, 89 last week. Jamar Chase, 264. Yep. Cortland Sutton, 122 a couple weeks ago. Cedric Tillman, 99. Even Jerry Jeudy, who's more of an out wide guy than Elijah Moore, 79. Chris Godwin was a slot guy. Mike Evans got hurt in this game, but he was, I believe he got hurt in the first quarter, on pace for what? It's close to, that's 100 yards if you multiply that across 4 quarters. Terry McLaurin, 53. Noah Brown's also very comparable to Terry McLaurin in terms of the out wide route percentage he has on Washington, 58. Jamar Chase, 193. T. Higgins, 83. Interesting. The Bills really don't use out wide receivers, so I am going to take that with a grain of salt. But Keon Coleman at 51. Lamb, he's all over the place, but 67. Devontae Adams with 110, and Rashee Rice, who also was kind of all over the place, 103 in week 1. So the Ravens allow a lot of yards to the guys out wide. How much do you want to trust this Chargers offense is the real question, because I go look at what the Chargers are doing in terms of offense, and you have to take everything with a grain of salt because Command F these guys real quick. Like, they're not throwing it to any certain place at a wild rate. Like, they're always going to want to run the ball. The Harbaugh system is going to be getting it to the first guy who's open. We're not going to pound the ball to anybody out wide, anybody in the slot. 13th highest out wide rate, which is Quentin Johnston, and it's Josh Palmer. Slot rate, 29%. 7th lowest. Inline target rate, which is very interesting, 2nd highest in the NFL. But you look at the Baltimore Ravens, they're not allowing a ton of targets to those slot guys, or sorry, inline guys. So if you want to lean into Will Dissly, you can. I'd rather not, to be honest with you. And then the back target rate, very, very low, the 4th lowest in the league. The designed overall percentage, again, bottom 10, which makes me lean away from J.K. Dobbins a little bit, especially we can go look at J.K. Dobbins' game logs. I'm trying to think how many games he's had multiple catches. We just talked about this, but multiple catches, 3 for 5, 2 for 20, 4 for 11, 3 for 26, 2 for 6. Okay, so he's had multiple catches in most games, 3+ in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So maybe the 3+ number is a little bit better for a guy like J.K. Dobbins because his reception projection is 2.5, which is very good. It's very interesting to know. So 2.5 for J.K. Dobbins. Let's go look at these game logs against for the Baltimore Ravens. See how many guys got 3+ receptions. Okay, so Warren and Najee 3+, Chase Brown 3+. McLaughlin had 3+ despite only having 10 yards. Okay. Again, nothing for the Browns. Rashad White had 6. Bucky Irving had 3. Eckler had 4. 3 apiece for Brown and Moss. Interesting. There was nothing with the Bills. That's fascinating to me. Dowdle had 3. Zamir White had 3. And Pacheco only had 2. But maybe we lean receptions before we lean yards for a guy like J.K. Dobbins, who's going to run a lot of routes, run the most routes really out of the backfield for those guys. I think that's probably where we lean. If you look at the Los Angeles Chargers, what they like to do offensively, they want to run the ball, but we're going to talk about this very briefly here. The Ravens are pretty darn good against the run, and that really does scare me because this is a team that's, we'll pull it up, 2nd fewest yards overall, 2nd fewest yards per game, fewest yards per carry, and where'd they just go? Tied for 7th fewest rush attempts overall. Now, you go look at the Chargers. It is the exact opposite. We'll pull this up really quick. Wait for this to refresh. But you look at the Chargers, it's literally the opposite. Like they want to run the football. They want to ground and pound. They want to, show their identity. Well, I don't know how that identity is going to fare against this Baltimore Ravens team. But again, you look, Los Angeles Chargers. This is offense overall. Attempts, middle of the pack, 291, so nothing crazy, but that's 29.1 per game, so that'd be ahead of a few of these guys. So I'd say they're slightly above average. Overall yards, the Los Angeles Chargers, okay, so they're only 18th in the NFL, so they're a little below average in overall yards, but yards per game, 12th most, yards per carry, 4.18. You know what? Maybe we were wrong about what the Chargers are good at offensively then. Maybe they don't run the ball as effectively or as much as we expect them to. So, you know what? Leaning into this Chargers offense against this Ravens defense, looking at it, I think J.K. Dobbins receptions is the way to go. 3+, so 2.5, more than 2.5, so 3+. And then, you can go look at the game logs for these receivers. I mean, Quentin Johnston's projected, 49.5, so 50. And 4 catches. He hasn't had 4 catches more than twice. He hasn't hit those yards more than, I don't know. I lean away from that. I don't know. I'm not super confident that he is going to be utilized as much as we think he will. Now, you look at Ladd McConkey, a guy who's projected, I think it was 67.5. 67.5 yards. And then I think it was 5.5 catches. I'm going to pull that up really quick for you. 5.5 catches. 5.5 catches to me is a lot. I'm not going to lean that. But 67.5, however many I just said yards in a game where they're going to have to throw the ball a lot. Look, I think that's pretty solid. I could lean into that a little bit, but I think the number one thing to lean into on the Chargers side is J.K. Dobbins receptions, receiving yards, or even both if you want to do both. But that is what I'm looking at. Now, before we talk about the other side, though, I do want to give a quick plug. If you guys want to follow along with all the picks I make for this game, I'm going to outline them on X. It's the same handle I have on here. You can look it up right here. At Loeb's Leads, same handle, LOEBSLEADS. Make sure you follow if you haven't already. We just surpassed 10K. If anybody's already following, I appreciate you guys big time. Thank you. But make sure you guys follow so you can follow along with my picks on there. I want to make sure you guys get the best information at the quickest points possible. And before we talk about the Baltimore Ravens, if you are enjoying this video, you haven't liked it yet, make sure you like it. Helps me out a lot. Helps me know that you enjoy this type of content. All right, let's keep talking Ravens data. Now, I go back and forth with how I feel about this Ravens offense because their identity is very clearly running the football, and they're very good at it. But, like, at what point is Derrick Henry going to get his 25 carry game? Is he going to get that? I don't know. I really don't know, and I'm not convinced. So their identity is running the football, and we know that. But it's I worry about the consistent usage of Derrick Henry as time goes on because the Ravens are finding new ways to attack defenses, and we're going to talk about what they can do on the ground through the air against this Chargers team. But before we do, again, we got to make sure we understand the coverage matrix here, and the Chargers are the second highest zone team in the league, second highest too high middle field open team in the league. And again, a lot of times that happens, like the running backs run wild. But let's go look at this advanced data for the run defense for the Los Angeles Chargers, because you look at that, third fewest attempts per game. Teams don't really run on them. But rush yards, if it'll load, they are middle of the pack. They are, I guess, slightly above average, so the 13th fewest rush yards per game. Yards per carry, though, 9th highest in the league. So teams can run the ball efficiently on them. It's just a matter of when they do it, how much they do it. We know the Ravens run a lot. I'll pull up those numbers in a second. But what I want to find out right now is if the Chargers are exponentially worse against any type of, like, one type of run or the other. So they've faced more zone yards per carry. They are 12th highest in the league. And then man gap yards per carry, they are, here we go, 19th highest. So maybe a slight lean. When you look at the Ravens, again, obviously most rush yards in the league, second most rush yards per game. Overall rush attempts, fourth most. Rush yards per carry, most in the NFL. They run the ball, and they run the ball well. But let's look at the zone concept here. I want to look at the zone concept because, again, Ravens are pretty balanced in what they do, but they're good at both, but they're much better in zone. So whether that's Lamar Jackson, whether that's Derrick Henry, you got to think about. But the run game is the key for the Baltimore Ravens. The only issue, and I found that is like a tiny little lean, a small lean. The Chargers are giving up, I believe it's the 10th most receiving yards to wide receivers the last 5 games. So people are attacking the Chargers through the air. It's just a matter of where. So let's take a look at that right now. We go back to this advanced receiving data. Wide target rate, Los Angeles Chargers, Command F them, 19th highest in the league. So not really out wide. Slot target rate, interesting. Not super high there. I do see something here, though. Tight end, middle of the pack, back target rate, baby. And I was hoping we'd see this because I have a player I love, 6th highest in the NFL. Now, what do we say about the Chargers? A lot of zone, a lot of too high. Do you know? You guys are going to love this. Do you know, out of everybody on the Baltimore Ravens who's running a significant amount of routes, that's the I'll say has 30-plus targets to make it easier. Do you know who has the most yards per route run against zone on the Baltimore Ravens? I'll give you guys a second. You can comment it if you want, but I want to see if you guys know it. Do you know who has the most yards per route run if we look at target percentage? The highest target percentage against zone? It's Justice Hill. It is Justice Hill. And I know it's crazy to think about, but I think Justice Hill could have a good game. Let's look at his projections really quick. Justice Hill rolling through. Ooh, I don't see it up there. But looking at his past games, right? Last week against the Pittsburgh Steelers, 28 receiving yards. Week before that, 2 catches. Week before that, 3 for 43. Week before that, 14 receiving yards. Week before that, 3 for 44. This dude against zone is very good. He gets his against zone. Now, we got to go look at the game logs against. That's the reality here because the Baltimore Ravens are very interesting in what they do in terms of where they throw the football, how often they give the ball to certain people, how they attack different schemes. Like, they're very particular, and we've learned that, right? But I want you to look at the running back production. Last week, Chase Brown, 5 for 57. Week before that, Tony Pollard, 4 for 19. Nothing out of the Browns. Again, Browns don't really throw the running backs. Week before that, Kamara, 6 for 55. James Conner, 2 for 51. Williams, 3 for 13. McLaughlin, 2 for 17, so nothing crazy. Hunt, 2 for 16. I believe this was Hunt's first game, though, on the Chiefs, so I wouldn't think too much about that. Patterson, 3 for 15. Najee, 5 for 16. Hubbard, 4 for 12. Alexander Madison, 4 for 43. Like, guys, I think this is where you look. I think this is where you look because, again, the Chargers are not being targeted at a crazy rate anywhere outside of the running back position. And now I want to go look at the Baltimore Ravens and where they throw the football because I have a funny feeling they're probably pretty balanced in terms of where they throw the ball, but I have a funny feeling they're going to be pretty high in the slot world if I had it. Yeah, so 6th highest slot rate in the NFL, which again, Chargers don't allow a ton to slot. If you want to put Zay Flowers in your slip, go ahead. It's almost a death sentence at this point to do that. They're not throwing the ball out wide too much, so 38.6% will put them in around the middle of the pack, and then in line 11.5% middle of the pack, and back rate 13.6, actually below average. So that is interesting to note. But I'm curious as to where the design screens come in because look at that, 14.6%, and a lot of that is Zay Flowers screens. But they're throwing screens at the 7th highest rate in the NFL. The Chargers are getting screened at, let's find this, 5th lowest. So it's going to have to be some checkdowns. Look, I think you take the chance with Justice Hill, to be honest with you. If you want to look at his receiving yards or receptions, I would probably be more inclined to go receptions because, again, I think the Ravens are going to be able to run the ball, but they're going to have to pass the ball to stay in the game. That's my Ravens pick. I think Justice Hill is the way to go. I mean, you can look at the receivers for the Baltimore Ravens. If you want to lean into the Ravens receivers, go ahead, be my guest. But Justice Hill receiving, J.K. Dobbins receiving, on both running backs receiving. That's where we're at in this game. But I think the Ravens have an edge through the air. I think the Ravens can do enough to stop this Chargers offense, as crazy as that sounds. I think their secondary is getting better. I think the Ravens win this game. Make sure you guys comment your score predictions. Make sure you let me know which picks you are on for the night. And again, I appreciate you guys hopping on. I appreciate you joining the Monday Night Football breakdown for Week 12. It's crazy we're already in Week 12, but I will see you guys next time, next Thursday, for the Thanksgiving games. We're going to have one for each game. Make sure you guys subscribe. And you can turn notifications on so you don't miss it as well. But make sure you subscribe so you don't miss that. God bless you guys. We'll see you next time.